You think you lost her, but what you really lost was the fantasy that someone else could fix you. It wasn't love. It was anesthesia. It was your last hope that maybe, just maybe, someone could silence the war inside you simply by staying. You didn't fall in love. You fell into relief. You thought her presence made you whole. But she didn't complete you. She distracted you from the truth, from the ache, from the silence that follows every question you've never had the courage to ask yourself. You gave her the map to your soul and said, "Here, draw it for me." And when she left, it wasn't just heartbreak you felt. It was collapse. Collapse of the image you borrowed. Collapse of the meaning you outsourced. Collapse of the man you never built. The tragedy isn't that she's gone. The tragedy is that you never existed without her. You turned her gaze into your mirror, and you stared into it so long you forgot what your own eyes looked like. You thought devotion meant depth, but real depth begins where clinging ends. Hegel warned us, a self that needs to be completed by another has never begun the work of becoming. The man who falls too hard is not romantic. He is afraid. Afraid of solitude. Afraid of contradiction. Afraid of facing the unbearable truth that no one is coming. That becoming is your burden. And love, real love, is not where you disappear. It's where you meet. But you didn't want to meet. You wanted to merge, to vanish, to disappear into her and call that union. This is not love. This is avoidance, spiritual, existential avoidance. And the deeper you fall, the more of yourself you abandon. You didn't lose her. You lost the illusion. And maybe, just maybe, that's the beginning of something real. You called it love, but it was a disguise. No character limit. You didn't love her. You loved who you thought you were in her presence. She wasn't a person to you. She was a place, a warm hiding spot where the noise inside you finally went quiet. Every "I love you" was really "don't leave." Every gift, every gesture, every late night call, they weren't devotion. They were defense. A desperate attempt to protect the fragile identity you constructed around her attention. You said you were giving, but what you gave was hollow, because it came with a secret demand. Make me feel real. You weren't choosing her. You were escaping yourself. This is the truth no one tells you. Some men don't fall in love. They fall into dependence and call it depth to avoid facing the shame. Shame that without her gaze, you feel invisible. That without her validation, you feel worthless, that without her softness, you have no place to rest. And that's what it was. Rest. Relief. Not revelation. Not connection. Just the momentary silence between the screams of your unexamined life. Hegel says recognition is essential to becoming conscious, but it must be mutual, grounded in freedom. If you demand recognition from someone who is not freely offering it, you don't become more. You become less. You become dependent consciousness, a man built not on values, but on reflection, not on selfhood, but on survival. You told yourself it was love, but it wasn't. It was a mirror you begged not to crack. And the moment she did, the moment she stepped back, asserted a boundary, or simply chose herself, your illusion collapsed. Not because she broke your heart, but because she stopped holding the one you never built. What you mourn now isn't the loss of her. It's the exposure of your own incompleteness. And here's the cruel twist. The more intensely you fall, the more of yourself you abandon. And the more you abandon, the more desperately you cling. That's not love. That's drowning. You thought love was the moment someone finally saw you. But Hegel would disagree. He'd say, that wasn't recognition. It was a fantasy. You weren't being seen. You were being reflected. And there's a difference, because when someone truly sees you, they don't just admire your image. They confront your freedom. They acknowledge your autonomy. They recognize the fire in you that exists without them. But you didn't want that. You didn't want a woman who looked at you and said, I see who you are. You wanted one who said, I'll tell you who you are. And the moment you gave her that power, you stopped being a man. You became a mirror, a shapeshifter, a boy rehearsing the script of romance to earn approval. Hegel called it the struggle for recognition, an existential battle. One soul facing another, each demanding to be seen as free. But here's the truth. Recognition only has value when it's reciprocal. If you attach yourself to someone who does not freely give it, if you beg for it, barter for it, bleed for it, then what you receive isn't recognition. It's tolerance. It's pity. And you build your identity on a foundation that was never meant to hold weight. That's why it crumbles. You thought her affection made you whole. But Hegel would say, you never had a self to begin with, only a longing. And you tried to build a man from that longing, tried to use her attention as scaffolding. But attention is fleeting, and scaffolding collapses. Now you stand in the ruins, thinking the pain is heartbreak. But it's not. It's exposure. You've been revealed. not as a lover, not as a partner, but as someone who mistook dependency for devotion. That's the brutal truth. You didn't want to love her. You wanted her to complete you, to say with her touch, her presence, her smile, "You matter. You are enough." But Hegel would warn you, that's not love, that's theft. You stole validation. You disguised your hunger as affection. You didn't love her for who she was. You loved her for who she let you pretend to be. And now she's gone. And so is he, the man you imagined yourself to be in her gaze. So here's the question Hegel would ask you. Now that the mirror is gone, do you have a face of your own? She left. No dramatic goodbye, no long explanation, just a silence so loud it echoes inside your skull. And now you're here, numb, confused, angry, but mostly ashamed. Because deep down, you know something terrifying. You weren't built to survive without her. You handed her the keys to your identity. And now that she's gone, the house is empty. But the truth? That house was never yours. It was rented, decorated with borrowed confidence, furnished with conditional worth, lit up by the electricity of her gaze. She wasn't your partner. She was your power supply. And now, everything's gone dark. You pace the room. You replay the memories. You scroll through the messages, not to remember her, but to remember you. Because your reflection lived in her. And without her, you don't know who's left. This isn't heartbreak. This is identity collapse. You feel like you're dying, but you're not. You're just being returned to yourself, the version you abandoned the moment you believed someone else could finish your becoming. And the irony? It was never her fault. She didn't break you. She just stopped carrying what was never hers to hold. You feel betrayed. But betrayed by who? She didn't lie to you. You lied to yourself. You told yourself she would save you. That love would fill the cracks. That her presence would erase the questions you were too afraid to ask. And now, those questions scream louder than ever. Who are you without her gaze? What do you believe without her approval? What are you worth without her reflection? The silence hurts, not because she's not speaking, but because it exposes how little of your own voice you've cultivated. And Hegel would whisper in that silence, "This is the beginning. Don't run." Most men run, right into another pair of arms, another story, another mirror. But if you stay, if you endure the emptiness, you'll find something sacred inside it. not love, not validation, but you. The self that was buried beneath performance. The soul that was silenced by approval. The fire that never needed her warmth to burn. This is your reckoning. And reckoning is not punishment. It's the price of becoming. You want it to stop. The ache, the tightness in your chest, the insomnia, the sudden memory that hits like a knife at 2 a.m. and leaves you gasping. You call it heartbreak. But Hegel would call it potential. That ache is not your enemy. It's your summons. A sacred signal from the self you've buried. The part of you that refuses to be silenced any longer. Most men numb it. They run to distractions, to work, to women, to noise, because sitting with it means looking in the mirror and realizing you were never building a life. You were building a disguise, and now that disguise has cracked, and what bleeds through is raw, unprotected, undeniable. This isn't about her anymore. It never was. The ache isn't missing her. It's missing you. The version of you that never got to live because you kept outsourcing your becoming to softness, to safety, to someone else's gaze. You turned your longing into your identity, your desperation into proof of depth. You believed feeling deeply made you real. But Hegel would say, feeling without transformation is just repetition. Suffering without clarity is just addiction. The ache is sacred, not because it hurts, but because it reveals. It shows you the places where you were still sleeping, where you still wanted to be rescued, where you still believed love could replace the work. But the work remains, the labor of the negative, the confrontation with contradiction, the fire you must walk through with open eyes. This is not a punishment. It's a privilege, because most men will never get this far. They'll skip the ache, patch it with attention, call a new woman soulmate before they've even remembered their own soul. But not you. Not this time. You're here, in the ache. And if you stay, if you stop running, you'll find what you've always been looking for. Not her, not peace, but truth. And truth doesn't come gently. It burns. It strips. It breaks. But it also rebuilds. And it rebuilds only what's real. Now that the mirror is shattered, you have two choices. Put the pieces back together and recreate the illusion that once made you feel whole, or let it die and build something real. Most men choose the first, They try to return to the image, to the mask, to the performance. They don't want truth. They want comfort that looks like truth. They don't want freedom. They want familiar chains. But you've already seen what happens when you build your selfhood on someone else's gaze. It crumbles. It always crumbles. So now you build differently. Not around being wanted, but around being worthy. Not for her, not to prove anything, but because you finally understand that selfhood is not something you're given. It's something you earn. Hegel said the self is born through negation, through contradiction, through breaking, and then through thinking. That's where you start. Not with affirmations, not with motivation videos, but with silence, with solitude, with the hard questions no one else can answer for you. Who are you when no one is watching? What do you stand for when love is not a reward? What is your value when no one is there to reflect it? This is the architecture of becoming, not a castle built overnight, but a foundation laid in stillness, poured with discipline, framed with clarity. You rebuild slowly. You shape your mind not with praise, but with reflection. You create not to be seen, but because creating makes you real. You train. You read. You write. You sit in discomfort. You endure the voice that whispers, "You are nothing." And you answer, "Maybe, but I'm becoming." And with every act of integrity, every thought that wasn't borrowed, every decision made without needing approval, you become a little more solid. You stop floating. You stop begging. You stop chasing. You walk, rooted, directed, alone, yes, but whole. Because now you don't need love to survive. You're not a man reaching for oxygen. You are oxygen. You are structure. You are the ground beneath your own feet. That's what makes you unbreakable. Not that you feel nothing, but that your value no longer comes from outside you. This is the man she could never destroy. Not because he's cold, but because he's built. It happens slowly, unexpected. You meet someone, and this time, something's different. There's beauty, there's laughter, there's chemistry, but there's no hunger, no desperation, no silent voice whispering, "Please make me enough." Because now you're not falling, you're meeting, you're not performing, you're being. You don't need her gaze to feel real. You already are. So you don't flood her with attention. You don't drown her in need. You don't hand her your soul and say, "Guard this for me." Instead, you bring your soul with you. You carry your own weight. You know your name, with or without her whispering it. And when she looks at you, she doesn't see a reflection. She sees a man, present, rooted, not craving rescue, not chasing approval, but open, capable of love, not because he needs it, but because he finally understands what it is. Love is not completion. It's alignment. It's not a shield from pain. It's a shared breath through it. It's not a mirror. It's a window. And now, you don't ask her to save you. You invite her to stand beside you. Not as your answer, not as your escape, but as someone who has also done the work. Two whole souls. No masks, no begging, no fantasies of rescue. Just presence, just choice, just truth. And for the first time in your life, you understand. Real love doesn't make you disappear. It makes you visible, not to her, to yourself. And that changes everything. Look around. You see it in other men. You hear it in their voices. You read it in their late-night texts, in their songs, their stories, their breakdowns. They say it with pride. I love hard. I give everything. I'd do anything for her. But listen closely. There's a tremble behind those words, a crack in the surface. Because most of them don't love her. They love how much they need her. They don't want partnership. They want rescue. They don't want truth. They want anesthesia. And maybe that man is still you. Maybe you're still performing, still arranging your words like puzzles, hoping she'll solve you, still measuring your worth in her attention, still calling it love when it's really addiction in disguise. You keep falling, over and over, into women, into fantasy, into escape. You think you're devoted, but Hegel would say, you're disappearing. Again. Because no matter how deep your feelings are, if they're rooted in dependency, they're not love. They're avoidance. You're not giving your heart. You're handing over your identity, hoping she'll tell you who you are. You're still building yourself out of borrowed glances, out of someone else's desire. And the moment she pulls away, you collapse. Not because she broke something, but because she stopped holding what was never hers to hold. That is the mirror. And most men flinch when they see it. They rush to break it, to replace it, to deny it. But not you. Not anymore. You've looked. You've seen. And now you know. You weren't loving. You were hiding. So the question is, what will you do now? Keep chasing mirrors, or finally become the man who no longer needs one? By now, you know. You were never meant to be completed. You were meant to be confronted. Love is not the answer. It's the reward, but only for those who've done the work. Recognition, real recognition, is not flattery. It's not attention. It's not someone saying, "You matter," when you don't yet know why. Hegel didn't write for comfort. He wrote for awakening. He believed spirit becomes real, not in peace, but in conflict. Not through harmony, but through contradiction. You become someone by standing in the fire, not by hiding in affection. And here's the truth most men never hear. Until you stop begging to be seen, you will never be truly visible. Because the man who fears abandonment has already abandoned himself. The man who performs to be wanted has already lost his truth. You think love will make you real, but love only reveals what's already there. So if what's there is hollow, is fractured, is dependent, then love will not save you. It will expose you. But if what's there is solid, earned, forged, then love becomes something else entirely. It becomes a meeting, not of wounds, but of souls, not of saviors, but of equals. No more mirrors, no more masks, no more desperate trading of attention for identity. Just two people, whole, awake, unafraid. This is what you've been moving toward. Not a woman, not a relationship, but a self, capable of standing alone and still choosing to love. Because love is not falling. It's not needing. It's not drowning in someone else's gaze. Love, real love, is standing. And only when you can stand alone can you finally stand with someone else. Stop calling it heartbreak when all it ever was a collapse of the mask you wore. You didn't lose love. You lost leverage. You weren't shattered because she left. You were shattered because she was the only thing keeping you from seeing how empty you are. That's the truth you keep avoiding. That behind the flowers, behind the promises, behind the ride or die loyalty you flaunted like a badge, was fear. Raw, pathetic, unexamined fear. Fear of solitude. Fear of building yourself from scratch. Fear of the silence that starts asking real questions. Fear of looking in the mirror and realizing there's no man here, just noise. You thought you were deep. You thought your pain made you real. But pain without reflection is just another drug, and you've been high on it for years. You called it romance. You called it devotion. But Hegel would spit on that kind of love, because it's not love. It's escape wrapped in poetry. It's dependency dressed up as passion. It's spiritual laziness with a broken heart aesthetic. You didn't love her. You used her to cover up the fact that you never became someone worth meeting. And when she left, what shattered wasn't your heart. It was your illusion, your fantasy, your fake sense of self that only existed in the warmth of her gaze. Now it's gone, and you're cold, not because she took something from you, but because you never built anything real to begin with. So sit in it. Don't numb it. Don't reframe it. Don't journal your way around it. Feel the failure. Feel what it's like to realize you spent years performing instead of becoming, clinging instead of creating, begging to be seen instead of learning how to see yourself. This is not her fault. She didn't ruin you. You handed her a throne she never asked for, and then cried when she dropped the crown. Enough. Enough with the metaphors. Enough with the self-pity. Enough pretending you were a victim of love when all you were was unwilling to grow. Hegel didn't promise comfort. He promised transformation through fire, through negation, through the violent, soul-ripping clarity that the man you've pretended to be has to die, so the one you were meant to become can finally stand up. So here's your choice. Stay addicted to the pattern. Keep falling. Keep performing. Keep calling it depth when it's just desperation. Or burn, break, bleed, and rise. Not for her, not to get her back, but because you were never supposed to hide this long. This isn't heartbreak. This is your fucking resurrection. Start acting like it.